Hello and welcome to today's episode where we're talking about daring to dream and having the courage to chase what truly matters to you. I'm your host, Victoria Hart, and joining me is Denise Ricard. Welcome, Denise.
Hello, thank you. Hi, Victoria. Hi, everyone. So glad to be back here with you all.
Yes, and we're moving things forward. So, hopefully you've brought your visions that you're wanting to turn into reality, and that we're going to support you in order to do that. And so often we shrink our dreams to fit the expectations of others or the limitations that we've placed on ourselves. But what if you gave yourself permission to dream boldly and follow those dreams? In this episode, we'll discuss the fears that hold us back from fully embracing our dreams, how to reconnect with what truly matters, and the courage it takes to pursue the life you're destined for. It's time to dream big and take action. So, Denise, let's open up by, inquiring, well, what does it mean to truly dare to dream?
Yes, I love that. As you were saying all that, I was thinking, like dreaming what we like want in our life, like just sitting. It was reminding me when I was a teenager, and I literally would sit and look up at the clouds and dream. So
Daydreaming.
big dreamer. Daydreaming, yes, with my eyes wide open and just watching the clouds go by. And in that space, because I was a teenager, so there there weren't as many of the all the conditioning that happened like later in life. And I just remember like just being present and then thinking about something that made me really happy, and then just kind of going with it, and then just also letting it just take off the way that dreams do. And daydreaming is is more of what we're talking about here, right? It's more the daydreaming. People have night dreams, and that's a whole different thing, right? Dreaming at night is really it's our subconscious working. It's getting messages. It may not make sense, and yet our dreams do come through that way as well, like
Yeah.
what we're dreaming on the outside, what we're desiring. So yeah, and really, so the reason I'm bringing this through is because when like daring to dream, it's almost like just bringing yourself back to when you just remembered to just daydream and
Mhm.
just allow, and then it becomes so much easier instead of like efforting. Yeah.
Yeah, and I love that you brought that through, because I think then what gets in the way, we have these beautiful dreams that we're pondering on during, usually, like you say, during the day, because that's that inspiration that comes through. And then what happens? We kind of then dismiss it as, oh, it's just a dream, how can I make it into reality? Or even saying, oh, it will never come true. We kind of dash our dreams, don't we? And
Yes.
why do you think we we do that?
You know, mostly it's because there's still a belief system that we're holding on to. That is something that happened within ourselves, whether it's from an experience in life or a past life, whether it's an energy that we brought through from past life, or even somebody, we talked about this in our other episodes too, about lovingly, family and friends who seem to know, quote unquote, what is best for us better than we do. So it's almost like it's like those veils, right? It's like if you've got your dream going, and then all of a sudden somebody just steps in front of your vision, and then you go, well, whoa, all of a sudden, like back into reality, right?
Right.
Back into reality. The reality of that is created around us that isn't that's that's created collectively. It's not even our own reality, or it could be our own version of our reality. But if somebody steps in, it's
Mm.
almost like that veil or that something coming in to kind of cut that off. So
Yeah, yeah. Like having, then it becomes like a fear of failure that then they probably activate by, um, yeah, not believing in our dreams. And so then, maybe we don't take that step because we've got that sudden fear that, oh, what if it doesn't work out? I'll be humiliated or rejected, whatever it is. And then on the opposite side, we've got the fear of success. Well, what will it look like if actually this dream does come in? How might my life change? And we're then definitely going to be moved out of our comfort zone if life, if the dream does happen, because we're going to start living it, and that can also bring up some fears, right?
yeah, that isn't that so true? That's like the paradox, right?
Yeah.
It's like and it's probably both of them are rooted in the same thing. They're probably rooted in
Yeah.
the same thing. Like again, a belief system that how or like how could this happen for me? I don't have all that money like so and so does, so they're dreams have all come true, or I don't
Mm.
have the perfect marriage or partnership or whatever it is. I'm not in the right place. I don't feel like I'm living in the right place, or I'm not in the right job. Like all those things, and yet when all that stuff comes up, those are like showing us what needs to be looked at. Why
Yeah.
are they coming up? Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then exactly. So then how do we get clear on what actually really matters to us? How do we know if what we're, you know, aiming towards is really our soul guiding us there, or if that's, kind of those societal expectations of what we should be and do, like you just shared, the the right partner and well, what is it? What house with the picket fence and the
The white
2.4
picket fence.
children. Yeah, exactly. That,
Yeah, 2.5 children and a
what is
dog or
it?
something like that.
Stepford
Some
Wives.
kind of statistic. Yes.
Stepford Wives, I remember. You remember that TV
Yeah.
show? Yeah. So
Ex
how do we recognize if we're really following what really matters to us, or if we're being kind of sidelined by, maybe these friends or family that's believe they know better than us, or if we're just chasing that status symbol, really.
yeah, and really it's how we feel. Like really it's how we feel. How does it like if we're dreaming about something, I mean truly just allowing and dreaming and just taking some time to not maybe things like movies or a TV show or something could even spark something. Like sometimes, we see this love story and obviously a lot of the love stories, have these ins and these outs of what's happening in the relationship. But then when the ending is so beautiful and there's that feeling of yeah, that's what I'm looking for. And then really it's following that feeling to say, okay, what's getting in the way of that and where's it coming from? And because if it doesn't feel resonant, we're not going to dream it. We're going to like if there is something that is coming in like a should or a would to do in our lives, and the shoulds are that's definitely coming from the outside world, right? That's like a directive. You should do this. Like that's not even a good for people on their spiritual path. Get rid of that word.
Yeah.
It's like there are no shoulds because when we're guided by our souls, by our higher selves, there is no. should do, because we do naturally what, when we're following that higher path, we do it naturally. It just comes naturally, and we're guided naturally also. So
Mm.
yeah.
And what I was coming through as you were sharing was, because it is a feeling, we feel like that desire that we want to create something. But as we know, fear also creates that kind of feeling, right? So how do we distinguish, is this a feeling of excitement and I want to follow this new idea that's dropped in? Or am I just, thinking it's fear because it also feels a bit um uh
Oh,
it
right.
makes you nervous, right? And with every new spark of idea also can create those kind of nervy feelings, but we have to kind of push on through that in a way. Yeah,
Yeah.
feel the fear and do it anyway because
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
excitement. It can be excitement as well.
Yes, yes. And really that's, and we've talked about this before, it's really about stepping out in following something. You like, if you just sit and don't do anything about it, like especially if there's like you're talking about kind of that trepidation of like, oh, like you're something's feeling resonant, but then there's something like holding you back from it's in order to grow, we have to take action. So there's just, and we talked about this last time, you have to just take a step. Just take a step forward and or step into
Yeah.
um and um
Yeah, and then see how that feels, right? It's just these little steps, right?
yes, because really, what do you have to lose? Now, I know that's a very third dimensional kind of like spiritual concept, I'll say.
Well, it's
If
true,
there's,
right?
you could, yeah, yeah, yeah. If you could even say the third dimensional spiritual concept, because that's really, what is that, right? A spiritual concept is like a higher concept. And yet there's that kind of like, what harm can it do or whatever. It's like, there's still some holding on to a little bit of the fear of it, but it's a little bit more motivational. And so what's the difference between that, like moving forward with in the little bit of fear, and moving forward like really like sure, I'm ready for this.
Mm,
It's where the motivation is coming from. Again, is it coming from inside, like some
mm,
seed that was planted inside that is just in like coming forward, that's that dream coming forward from your heart? Or
yeah.
is it like somebody making a suggestion to you, like, oh, and it could come from this, right? It could come like the sparks can come from anywhere. It can come from a conversation with another person. It
Hmm.
can come from a song. It can come from a number. These motivations or sparks can come from anywhere, and it's really looking at the very seed of that, because
Yeah.
we are going to get that. We're going to get motivation. Maybe somebody's like, oh, you were talking about moving, maybe it's time for you to move, and then that it's that kind of thing where then, we have to decide for ourselves, is it time to move? Or also, is that a spark to say, something needs to change?
Mm.
Something needs to change.
And I've got a story around that actually. You just inspired me. And again, it's like you said, is it coming from the heart? Are we just getting that little spark and then following that? And even if we're a bit nervy, with that each step, it loosens a bit of those nerves. Or are we doing it because what we said earlier, because society tells us, we should have this, this, and this. And so we're coming from a sense of lack, like it's not in my life and therefore I want it. And so the story is this is quite a few years ago now. I had an opportunity to go and work in Australia. And I was like, oh, shall I do it? Am I getting, is this the right thing for me? And I think it was, 3 times I saw driving around London Aussie man with a van on the side of this van. It was like a removal van or something. And I was like, and when you see it more than once, I was like, yeah, that's my sign. That's my cloud confirmation. I mean, how much clearer could it be? Aussie
Yes.
man with a van.
Yes.
So I was like, yep, I'm going to Australia. So yeah, yeah, exactly. Those kind of things. I really
Yeah.
like that.
And then so you followed that dream and then
Mm.
how was that? Like what was that like when you got that confirmation through those synchronicities, right? Seeing that the van and then like that's a way to find motivation really and
Yeah.
to move forward, right? So how did you feel about that?
Oh, well, I was excited. It kind of loosened up any like uncertainty because I was getting clear signs that this is my path. This is the step to take. And actually, as soon as I did take that first step, and I think this is another guide, once you do take the step, if it's meant to be, it's effortless. There isn't any of this kind of constant pushing and struggle. You're just in that flow, and that's the experience that I had. Yeah, and it was a cool experience as well when I got there.
That's that's awesome. Yeah, and what you're just saying is the path does get cleared of obstacles when we are following it. So that's like another thing. Like how do we know? Okay, so the magic and the synchronicities are showing up and then it just, the path gets cleared
Yeah,
also.
revealed.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Revealed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah.
So I think it's a good time maybe to invite people who are with us live if they want to type in the chat, what bold vision have you come here with that you would like some support with to follow through? Perhaps you're keeping it to yourself right now and you haven't shared it with anyone, or perhaps you're just unclear about whether it is for you, like we've just been talking about, whether it is for you and how do I follow that dream? So just give you a few minutes if you want to share anything that's coming through of what we've shared so far. And then whilst we're waiting to see if anything comes in, I just thought we'd talk about, having that because you picked up on it a bit earlier, Denise, was around other people thinking they know what's better for you. And, how do we have that courage to follow through, even if we feel misunderstood or judged by other people?
Yeah. Yeah. And that really that's part of our lessons, right? And as somebody is saying here and pointing out here, like because you mentioned the kind of keeping it under your cap,
Yeah.
like that when like this the one that's asking about, yes, I have an important decision to make and like I don't even want to tell my best friend or whatever because there's like what are they going to think of me? What are what and it if it stems even, I mean, that's a big one. That's a big challenge and big growth opportunity to really know that if there's these relationships that you're so close to in your life and that there's some type of question about trusting, the people that are even closest to us, then what I would say to that person who's bringing that forward about keeping it under their hat or not expressing to a best friend is that that is reflecting like not necessarily trusting yourself. And so then that goes back to what we were just talking about, trusting yourself in making your decisions. It has to come from the inside. You've got to be connected to the inside. My cat is meowing really loud here, helping with the energies. Um, so I would say to that, that to look at like where are you not trusting yourself in making decisions for yourself? Because then that it's almost like you're following a chain backwards, right? Like, has there been someone in your life who's made all the decisions for you? And maybe in a even a powering over way where it was done out of love, or maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was done out of a true control. Um, and sometimes it happens with these relationships, like the best friend or something, like you don't even see that they, are maybe in that kind of that controlling type energy, and because there's something within themselves that they feel out of control with, and so it's turning back in and looking at where you're not trusting yourself.
Mm. I think that's really key, and reminds me of, I don't know which, I know we talked about it last week, but we might have also talked about it in another episode, is surrounding yourself with the people who are going to support those dreams. And also recognizing that sometimes when we're ready to expand, we might have to let go of people that are holding us back from moving forward with those dreams. And I know certainly, sometimes in the early stages, maybe you don't want to quite share it because you're still, you know, getting clear on maybe what that looks like. But I remember a while, before I was doing what I'm doing now, I had this dream to be a documentary filmmaker. I wanted to tell stories that make a difference. And I remember sharing it with some people who I didn't know. It was kind of like to see if they wanted to come on board. And I remember being like, someone just smiled at me. And I mean, I took it a little bit like they were kind of like, um, humoring me, we'll say, because they
Yeah.
just smiled and said, "Oh, she's a live wire, this one." Because I had bold vision. I had this bold vision, and I guess, it was bigger than what the people I was sharing it with could really fathom. And whilst I didn't make a living as a documentary filmmaker, I still had some experiences where I did go out and create some stuff. And so really that's part of the dream. I've created it, I've enjoyed it, and I've run it for the course that it was, simmering in that energy for, and then it ran its course. And then, it's then what's the next dream I'm going to create? And I guess that's when I realized, I am a creator. I'm always got dreams, and I create things. And I think that's the difference between recognizing whether it's success or failure, is the fact that did you do it? And I think we judge ourselves so much on, I guess, and you mentioned this earlier, that financial reward. Have I got enough money to follow my dream, or I'm following a dream, but am I making any money from it? And I think really it's about the joy of doing it and following it, right?
Yes, yes. Gosh, there's so many things in what you just said. I'm trying to remember them all. So I'm just gonna like ask that to channel through. So first of all, we are creator beings.
Yeah.
That's what we're here to do, is to be creators. And then what you said about, you have like there was this big dream to be this documentary film, and then you did pieces of what that might look like. So what was coming through about that? So thank you for bringing that through, because that, like, sometimes to step into a really big dream, like, that may seem scary, yet you don't even have to. You could just, again, take a step, and you can just um, bite off pieces of it. If that's because everybody's different and how they do that, how they start projects, and that there's been so much conditioning around finality. So that's the human condition is that, things end, that there's endings and that they're final endings and all. And then if something doesn't get come into full fruition, that it's a failure. So there's a lot of those kind of that kind of conditioning that comes through as well. And then the other thing is, so as you were talking about, telling people you're going to be a documentary film, be doing that, and your motivation for that, how that was coming from your heart, that sometimes those are sparked, well, they're always sparked from within, but if we look back at even our childhood, like as young children, we know how to dream, we know how to imagine, we know how to play, we know how to make up. And so if there sometimes if you feel an idea coming on and then you feel like you're immediately shut down, like you yourself shut it down. So it's not even somebody else. Okay. Because this is what you were bringing in, Victoria, is like even before we tell the best friend or whoever it is, that there's some working out within us. And if it's starting within us and then it's shutting down immediately, there may have been, just looking back on childhood, and like, were you in, in school, and did a teacher shut you down when you said, I want to be an astronaut? Like, I remember when I was 5 saying I was going to be a geologist because I didn't even know what crystals were. But I'm so connected to crystals. Crystals are connected to me. I'm connected to rocks, the earth, like mountains, like just all of this. And I just was saying I'm going to be a geologist. So some part of me knew that I was connected to all this. And I just, whatever the reaction was, whoever, well, there aren't a lot of those positions available, or whatever it was, that there could have been some type of shutting down of that. And so that's also where, like, coaching type work, like mentoring coaching, like what you and I do. I'm just going to say that because it's like sometimes people can't even go back into their childhood because it may be either traumatic or just too hurtful, or they've just shut it down because they were shut down. So sometimes it's necessary to well, I'm not going to say necessary, but it is very helpful to look back and see, in your early childhood, what did spark you, and was anything shut down?
Yeah, and good point because I definitely was shut down many times, but I think what I learned was they didn't believe in my dream. Maybe it knocked me a little bit, but then I went on and found, I didn't, carried on pursuing it and found other people that did resonate with that idea and stuff. And yeah, it just goes back to also accepting that I think I had to learn that I did a few things, but it wasn't my true path. And so whilst I had that experience and I did be a bit of a little bit of a documentary filmmaker, or an amateur, should we say, for a bit, I had fun and I learned a lot. It was part of my growth. And then I moved on to the next thing. And I had to kind of let go of that dream. So sometimes we have dreams and then they have a little bit of fruition, and then we just let go of them and allow the next thing to come through. Yeah.
Yeah,
Maybe you've
yeah.
got an experience you want to share, Denise.
Well, what's coming through right now is so I remember when I was in college, in university, and it was really important in my family, my parents, like, get your degree and get out and get a job. And then and so some of that was like some of the stuff that was coming up, like, we would take these tests of a personality test, and things would come up, and I'm like, no, just because I like to sew doesn't mean I'm going to be a home ec teacher. Like, you put down all the things that you
Yeah.
like to do, and then then they were kind of placing you in, oh, this is what kind of career you could. rather than really even tapping into something really deep to connect in with. But what I was thinking of when you asked that question is that longevity that we were talking about, and then projects and doing a project and then moving on to the next thing, because really that's being in the flow of our life. And yet during my college university years, there was like, try and find a job that you can have for life, because then you get benefits. Then you get like, they put money in a bank account for you. Like there was all about, and even even when you look back on some of the older like black and white TV shows and movies, it's like, you get a watch for it being at a job for 10 years or 20 years, you get a trip or something.
Back.
Yes, a plaque, a plaque. Like who cares, right? But that was also feeding, and it's not a who cares. I didn't
No,
mean
but yeah.
that to sound that way, but it was more like that was feeding this societal thing about longevity and long term, when people were in their jobs. And like I worked at a high school, and people were like, oh, 5 more years until I retire.
Right.
Well, why are you waiting 5 more years? 5 more long years till I retire. And then it's because, well, my pension,
Yeah.
the money that you get. And then I would ask the question, well, okay, so you're vested how much in your pension? Well, only 75 or only 85% or 90. And I'm like, is 5 years of your life worth like? And I was just saying this because people get like tunneled in to believing something. And when you think about it, like let's say you're 90% vested, so you're looking at a financial reward when you get out that pays you even though you're not working. And it's like, okay, for that other 10%, is it worth 5 years of your life or whatever it is? And it's really like, if like people like on your awakening journey, like it's to look outside of those constraints and outside of those barriers as well.
I love that you brought that through. And what's coming is like two things really, like, being sold that longevity and oh, but you get something at the end, if you just put in all this hard work for all these years, blood, sweat, and tears, and then you get that plaque or the watch or the pension. So, that's one of the reasons why I think people just settle and don't then follow their dreams. They settle for less than their dreams. And, and that, we're coming from that kind of fear that, oh, what if I don't have that? And it's a false sense of security, really, to believe that, oh, if I stay here, then I get something later. But what about now? Living your life now is so much more important than maybe getting something at the end of your working life. And we stay in jobs and relationships because of this fear or lack, isn't it, really? What might come through for you to share about that?
Yeah. I was just thinking, like, I was thinking back of just situations. I don't know if it was with my parents or like when I was younger. Well, so and so just retired and they were working their whole life and they just retired and then they died.
I've had so many stories like that.
Where and they didn't even get a chance to live their well.
Yeah,
And
well, they
I
get the pension and then they die before they get to spend it.
spend it exactly, or get sick or whatever. All that is. That's why those are like. Thank you to all those people who are bringing through the those life lessons of really, it's important to live your life. And not that some of those people aren't living their life every single day in the joy. We're just talking about kind of that societal
Yeah, yeah,
thing. But really to just be in you know in a state of joy always. Why not? Why there's no waiting. You can't postpone joy. You can't postpone abundance. You just it doesn't, that's not how the law of attraction works, really. So,
And we've shared before that if it's only like the money, money is a massive thing. We've become so heavily reliant and it dictates to us, or we believe it dictates whether we can or can't do something. And actually, as we've proven in our own lives, just taking those small steps, you can start creating abundance and something new from very little. It's just
yes,
having and holding on to that dream and really believing in that.
yes.
So let's open the floor, see if anyone would like to share something maybe they're working on that we can maybe help guide them with, or if there's any comments or questions on what's been shared so far. And so you're welcome to unmute if you'd like to share anything. And then what I thought I might do is take us through a little guided visualization just to really start to spark those dreams that may be kind of buried within, that we're just not quite aware that they are simmering just under the layers.
That's beautiful. Yeah.
All right, so let's do that then. Let's
Okay.
move on to the visualization. So just a short visualization. I just invite you to close your eyes and take a couple of long, deep, cleansing breaths in through the nose and out of the mouth. And with each breath, just breathe deep into the belly. Really fill the belly with your breath. 'Cause your breath is your life force energy, and that's what's going to manifest your dreams. So I just want you to go with whatever comes through, something that you really desire or really yearn to experience in your life. Maybe it's a new home or a job or a relationship. Maybe it's living in a new country. Maybe it's just a little thing. Whatever it is, just go with the first thing that comes through. And I want you to visualize yourself in a scene. Just imagine that you're doing whatever it is that's just come through to you. And just notice, well, where are you? What are you wearing? What are you seeing, sensing? What do you hear on the wind? What colors do you see? Is it day? Is it night? Is it warm or cold? Are you indoors or are you outdoors? And who are you with? What's being said or what are you doing together? And just notice as you bring this scene to life with all your senses, really seeing yourself in that image. And I'm just going to sit quietly just for 30 seconds or so and just allow you to really bring that dream to life in your imagination. And just keep the breath flowing, allowing thoughts to pass as you immerse yourself in this bold vision. And just stay with it for maybe another 10 seconds and then I'll bring you back. Okay, so if you want to take a long, deep breath in
Hmm.
and exhale, wiggle your fingers, your toes. Bring yourself back. Yeah, I'm just curious. Did anything come through that is maybe going to spark that next step for you in whatever area of your life? Feel free to share in the chat, or if you want to come on and share, you're welcome to. And Denise, maybe you've got something you'd like to share.
I do. Thank you. That was just so relaxing. So relaxing and so like one of the things that you started with was the breath, right? And that always helps us in a visualization going within. It always helps to start with the breath. And the breath is key for everything. Like even in daily life, like if there is fear coming up or if there's anxiousness about anything, like just returning to the breath because that really does bring you into that nice state. And my vision, it's like I go to New Earth all the time. And I see all these colors, like I see everything resonating, their auric colors, and I see the fairies and I see all the elemental beings around and it's just light and easy and airy and there's no things. It's just being. It's just a state of being. And
Beautiful.
and yeah. And then I just feel peaceful from that. So thank you.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
welcome. I just find that, yeah, and you're right, the breath really brings us to that present moment. And of course, as we were talking earlier about, we're kind of conditioned to think that we can have our dreams later in life. We have to do this thing first, and then we get to have the money or the nice house, whatever. And actually, that breath just reminds us that the only moment really is the now, the present moment. And so we need to really be living in that joy that you talked about in every moment if we can. And that's not to say that we won't have challenges and sad times pop up because, that's part of life, but we can certainly manage it with much more ease when we're living in that present state of presence. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's like Dare to Dream. That's the name of this podcast, Dare to Dream. Like just have like give yourself that motivation to just take that step, take the next step. And by connecting inwardly, you just get more clarity on what it is that you really want. And then, as we began this particular episode, is like how do you know what are those feelings?
Yeah.
um yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, are there any steps that you would like to share on how to start chasing the dream? Maybe it can start with a visualization, but then what do we need to do next to make it a reality?
Yeah. um so tapping into like from a meditative state like that, like tapping into what were those feelings and then starting to look at things in your life, like what helps, like what are you doing in your life? What are the relationships? How are you being in your life? Are you like those kind of things, like feeling that beautiful, peaceful feeling is like being out in nature, taking time for yourself. Like, are there any places where that feeling where you're not feeling that feeling? And then if so, what can you do to change that? Because sometimes like even in a work day, it's so easy to get caught up in work and not even stop to take a water break or an eye break, from the computer or the breath, coming back to the breath. And so I would say the next step is to kind of tap into that feeling, that peaceful feeling, and then where are you having that in your life and where are you not having it, and taking a look at where you can change that, where you're not having that in your life.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that because, yeah, the part of reinforcement is to recognize, well, where in my life have I already created this for myself? Or, maybe reminding ourselves of times in the past where we've turned something into reality. So giving us that motivation and um, desire to keep pursuing that. And, I was reminded of, famous people that, were just doing their job and suddenly got all this guidance. And the one that's coming through to me at the moment, because I watched recently some of her films, is J.K. Rowling. And of course, she's got a story of inspiration, and I think she was, I think she was like living on benefits, raising children on her own, into her 30s, and then, downloaded the Harry Potter series, right? And that changed her life. And I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that, she literally had to hit rock bottom before something would turn around for us. And, as hard as that sounds, I think sometimes, and we shared it maybe last week, we think we're living, or maybe it was a week before, but we think we're living because we're breathing, but are we really truly living, or are we just going through the motions of life? And sometimes, we have to have that kind of rude awakening in a way to really admit to ourselves that, nah, this is not good enough for me. I want something better. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and as we're opening up more and more spiritually, and the light that's coming on the earth, the love that's coming on the earth is supporting us in, you know, hopefully not having to get to that rock bottom anymore. Like really following those soul nudges
Yeah.
so that you can avoid some of those quote unquote pitfalls. And yet at the same time, like that's a perfect example of, somebody like just clearing the decks completely. Like there's no place else but up, right? That's the other thing.
Yeah.
People who hit rock bottom, it's like there's no other place to go but up. And it's so there is more lightness. And if you're listening to this, you're on a spiritual path, you're on a spiritual journey, you're awakening. And so just that's also a part of tapping into your dreams and getting to know what it is that really is resonating more with you, what you want. And then when that happens and you take action, even if it's one foot in front of the other, if it's one step, then you're already creating your path. So you're not like stuck in the sand, so to speak, or hitting hitting rock bottom. Yeah.
Yeah. And, it does take courage, doesn't it, really? Um, we've talked through this whole episode really on all the things that can hold us back and make us not want to be brave and follow our dreams. But we've also shared what really, what can happen when we do stay aligned with those dreams and just take those little steps forward to turn it into reality.
Yeah. And that courage does not come from the outside, it comes from within.
Yeah.
It definitely comes from within. Yeah. And there's like a whole episode we can have on just that. And we've touched on it in all of our
Well,
episodes. So,
we've said that everything comes from within, right? The divine
yes,
spark, the spark of an idea comes from within. And really, it's because, we were born with it living within us. We've just had to awaken it, right? And
that's why we're here. Yeah,
yeah, and so
absolutely.
this awakening that we're talking about is really awakening to what little seeds are hidden within us that are just wanting to burst out and come to life and be birthed through us.
Yes. Yes.
And just to kind of wrap on everything that we've talked about, it's like, are we just following the societal expectations, or are we gonna embrace those little seeds of inspiration that live within us and actually follow it through and see what really is possible for our life?
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for all of that. Absolutely. Great wrap up.
Okay, so as we close today's discussion, I really hope that you feel empowered to dare to dream. And, as we've shared, remember your dreams are unique to you. And so they exist for that reason for you to birth into reality. And so it does take courage to chase them. But the reward of living that life, which aligns with your true desires, is just, beyond measure. So don't let fear or doubt keep you playing small. And
And trust yourself.
yeah,
Trust
believe
your
in your vision.
inner. Yeah. Yeah.
Trust. Sorry, carry on, Denise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yep,
Beautiful.
trust, and then take those steps forward. And if you need any support along the way, then Denise and I would be honored to walk that path with you. So thank you for being here today, Denise. Thank you for those who attended live and for those who are catching the replay. And join us for the final episode next week, where we'll be exploring the power of dreaming big.
Yeah.
Okay.
Beautiful. Yay. Thank you so
Thanks,
much. Thanks
everyone.
everyone for being here. Thank you, Victoria, too.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Denise. All right. Bye for now. Bye, everyone.
Bye for now.